It's like they got you. They could then psychologically analyze you, and they do this because what do they do when you walk into a casino? A player's card, right? They track everything, from your drinking habits to your spending habits to the types of games you like. Why wouldn't they do that with sports betting?
All right, we are back after a disastrous episode 4. We didn't put out episode 4, and you're glad that we didn't. It was horrible. It came out really bad. So this is episode 4.5, and I think what we're doing here is we're really exploring what our ideas are going to be about the show, and so we're going to play around with a couple things. We have some really great topics today. And, because we're such a new channel, we don't have much subscribers. So I won't do this often, but go ahead, like and subscribe. We're going to put out content weekly. And, if you don't subscribe now, you'll eventually subscribe later because we're going to be here for a while. We have a lot of time, and eventually, we'll grow. And if we don't, well, it is what it is, but we're going to give it a go. We're going to try. And, I think we'll have some fun with it, and we'll have some different guests from time to time. Vinny's going to be here weekly, hopefully as long as we get the audio right, which I do believe we had right now. I love it. I tested it, and I think, we'll get better equipment if, we grow. And for the time being, this is what we got. I think we'll be optimal right now. But it'll be fun. It'll be really fun. So let's get into it, right? Let's get into it. I saw something yesterday during the Monday Night Football game for Kyler Murray. Okay, it threw me off. So I was on Twitter, and of course Kyler Murray got hurt in the beginning of the game. And I saw on Twitter somebody was asking FanDuel Sports for a refund, and my first instinct is like, ha, that's funny, like what? I've never really seen many people ask for their money back after losing, because they usually go to the cage and they'll do it over Twitter, but generally it just doesn't happen, right? And sure enough, I had saw that, MGM. No, go give me the picture. Yeah. MGM tweeted out a tweet yesterday, and I was like, okay, I couldn't believe we did it. MGM customer support. We are refunding all Kyler Murray player props for Monday Night Football due to tonight's injury. He played I think 2 plays or 3 plays. Customers will be refunded in the form of free bets within 24 hours. Single wagers only. Only single wagers.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to push parlays and parlays and parlays on you, but hey, we'll give you back your single wagers. Under wagers will result as a winning bet. So actually, if you did have an under, like you had with Anthony Davis, the Lakers, where he got sick. Oh, yeah. So if you get sick, does that really count as the same as what happened to Kyler Murray?
8 minutes and 1 point. Yeah. So it's tough.
He had 1 point.
Well, I had a situation with John Rahm a while ago where he was forced to withdraw because of COVID too. And I was not refunded my money, unfortunately. They said all John Rahm bets will stand.
Yeah. So, I mean, on this one, they gave back, it continued first TD score, anytime TD score, over on passing yards, completions, attempts, over on rushing yards, over on passing TD and interceptions. Okay, so, I'm happy for the people who got their money back. Let's just be upfront about that. I kind of felt it was kind of weird, though, because, I do have a situation recently where Anthony Davis got sick. Now, to be quite honest, if Anthony Davis did not play in that game, the line wouldn't have been what it was, which would made me not bet it. And for him to only give, 1 point, he played 8 minutes, but it was kind of a detriment to the team. I mean, that's kind of a minimal effort. Murray, he ran for yards. So he actually, I would say, almost produced more than Anthony Davis did in the limited time that he was even on the field, more than Anthony. I mean, Kyler Murray produced more than Anthony Davis is what I'm saying. And, I didn't get my money back. I guess I'm kind of salty about that, right? But at the same time, it threw me off. I didn't think that this would actually happen, that you would actually start getting your money back for players getting injured. It seemed to be a little strange. What do you think about? I mean, first, okay, not what do you think about it, but have you ever had this happen to you? Or you said you haven't, right?
Well, no, I did. Yeah, with the John Rahm situation. For those who bet on golf, I'll be short, but John Rahm was expected to win, and he was ahead by like 7 strokes. So it looked like a great ticket. And then in the middle of the match, or I forgot exactly when, but it was after he started playing, they said that there was a positive test for COVID and that he could not compete, and it was for the health and safety of everyone involved. So this was actually a situation where you test pre-game or pre-match, you have the results pre-match, you allowed the match to go on anyway, and then they watch to see where the money goes, and then, or at least I feel, you know me, conspiracy Vinny, right? Once the wagers and the money and the dust had settled and it seemed like there was a lot of money on Rahm, it just felt like, okay, we're going to pull the plug on this thing. Let's get him out of there. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, but
he was forced to withdraw. I was not refunded my money.
Yeah.
I contacted customer support, and they informed me that all bets on John Rahm would stay in, which I thought was like, wow, this is a situation that's outside of his control. And I thought I had a shot at it. I thought it might be a legitimate case, but
it really makes me think of all those times that there was all those NBA players going in and out from COVID right before game time, and people were making bets. Obviously it happens a lot, but that's why it threw me off. And like I said, initially when I saw this tweet, I'm like, this guy really thinks he's getting back his money. And then obviously I saw from BetMGM that they had put it out there. So maybe he had saw BetMGM, and he was asking FanDuel, because FanDuel, and maybe FanDuel did. I didn't even check it. I don't know. As a bettor, I think it sucks when a player gets hurt, or like in my case, he got sick. What are you gonna do? I honestly, when does that start becoming more of a norm? I wonder if more sports books are gonna do that. To gain, like, if a player doesn't play the first quarter, or where do you put that red line at? You know what I'm saying? It's going to be interesting if that might be a more desirable sport book then. If these sports books are going to be doing that, because hey, if they said if a player gets sick and doesn't play or starts and then leaves, I might open up an account there. That I mean, that's the truth. But I mean, do you have anything on that? I know I just sprung it up on you. You didn't really have one.
No, anything prepared. But I just feel like it's up to them. And when I say them, I mean the books. They're gonna have their own discretion. They have their chief oddsmaker, whoever's in charge of running the show, and I mean, there are rules, right? But I almost feel like they make up the rules as they go along, especially with the player prop market. I don't want to put a lot of my money into the player prop market for that reason. I would argue that I would take my chances with sides and totals, because while there might be injuries or there might be small variables or deviations, ultimately the game will go on. Right, a player can go out for one team; they're still going to finish the match. So my ticket, in theory, would still have a shot to win. But yeah, other than that, man, I don't really have too much to share on that. I got sour grapes from that John Rahm experience.
Have you ever gone to a book and asked for your money back?
Yes.
For like something that's happened?
Yes, that John Rahm. And
so you asked them?
Yeah. At first it started with customer support, and then you know how it goes, man.
No, tell us. So tell us what you did.
So I started with a chat, right, with one of their lovely agents at the book. Very respectable, highly educated people there. So it just felt like they weren't grasping my concern. It was a very generic cookie cutter, like.
But you were asking for your money, or?
No, so basically, like, they were like, okay, the ticket lost. And I'm like, well, I know that you're saying the ticket lost, but what I'm trying to say is my guy was winning and he was forced to withdraw. And I could understand if it's like a pregame and then like he withdraws in that situation, they would probably give me my money back. But in this situation, someone somewhere, whoever's in charge, they allowed the match to continue. And I forgot what the story was regarding the COVID results. All I know is that, look, you had the results before he started playing golf, so you didn't care about the player's health or safety before.
You were telling them this?
No, this is what I'm thinking. So like I'm trying to come up with a response to actually go there and talk to an educated person.
Yeah.
And I tried to articulate the best I could to whoever was in charge at the book at the time. And they basically told me, hey, man, I get where you're coming from, but we've already made a decision, and that's the way we're going. So he basically told me, like, there's going to be situations where it's not necessarily clear, black or white, on what should be done, and that they reserve the right to basically make that decision. So, in conclusion, man, just be very cautious when it comes to that player prop market, because as you're so astute to point out, things can happen, change in a heartbeat, and it can actually affect the outcome of your ticket. If you get refunded and you're one of those few lucky customers, hey, congrats to you. I'm glad you got your money back. I was not in that instance.
I actually think when I lose now, I'm gonna ask for my money back
every time.
Like, right? Almost like just make up something. Like, I don't know, it might work. Like when I'm going and making my bet, like just so happen to stop in customer service, be like, hey, by the way, I lost yesterday, and I didn't think I lost, even though I lost.
I thought I bet the other side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I hit the wrong button.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button.
I need my money back. What can we do?
Send it however you want. You can Zelle, Venmo.
It might be worth a try. I mean, the books operate in like mysterious ways, which is going to lead us into our next topic, right? I think one of the greatest talking points for like just sports gambling in general is how they come up with these damn numbers, man. They're so on point, most of the time. It's ridiculous. I use them for a lot of my capping, which is, I guess, why I'm so interested in this topic. I used to always kind of think that like way back when they first started, like they just had like these guys in a room and they kind of knew what they were doing about what they knew about sports. They were like the public back when there was no public, and they were making like, just gut feelings, like think about how the statistics were used back in the day for just baseball, so we're talking how Vegas was using this like statistic and eyeball test formula. I would imagine there was no supercomputers or whatever, there was no formulas I can imagine right off the bat, so they had to think about this. And like I always thought that like there would be like this discussion, and they would come to kind of some kind of an agreement that, look, it's minus 7 for the home team, and the I was like, maybe like the other guy on the other side of the table, he's like, okay, I want 8, and the other guy's like, well, I don't want 8, we'll do 7.5, and then they compromise that way, and then the number comes out at 7.5 because you had two people on opposite ends of the looking at both teams, looking from a different perspective. One wants to bet on one team and the other wants to bet on the other teams. They want to bet against each other. And what number do they come up with? So it's always been kind of like a crazy kind of like thought process that I've thought of. I mean, what do you think of like the situation? Like, what have you always thought about it? Like, just before you did any of your research.
I mean, before any research, I had no opinion. I just literally I just knew that however they came up with this number, it was like a lot of thought went into it. So I know historically they use algorithms, as you mentioned. They use power rankings. win totals, futures, but most importantly, I think it's the consultants. Whatever consultants they use, there's syndicates who pay a large sum of money.
Yeah, I was talking like when it first started. Like I'm
Oh.
sure it advanced throughout the years, but when it first started.
When it first started, I was a kid, so I would.
No, not you. I'm talking about the book.
Oh, the book. Honestly, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know how. Because I wasn't involved then, I would have no opinion. I had no idea how they were doing business beforehand.
Yeah.
I came in a couple years ago, so that's kind of where my knowledge probably would end.
Can you go ahead and open that and show me? We Googled this right beforehand, because it's always like so mysterious and kind of like, I think you always get different opinions on how they do it, whether it's some kind of supercomputer that just gives a simulation. No, I'm serious. They really that gives these simulations and that they come really accurate. And then after that, then they have people look at it and determine whether or not they kind of agree with the simulations. So the simulations that I kind of think that they do it's just a starting point. And then they have people who, either try to shade one way because they believe that they can get money on one side versus the other. Now, it differs for sports. Like I would say in football, you have the whole week. So you're banking on a whole week of people betting. So you're going to get money on one side versus the other. So, I think when they put out those numbers, there are some manipulation in those numbers coming out of a simulation. But for, day-to-day sports where you might not get as much cash on a certain game, whether it be, something maybe not a lot of people bet, or just something kind of normal like an NBA game, it isn't going to get as much cash, I don't believe, as a football game. So when they make those lines, in my opinion, they make them more fair to what they kind of believe, but they always kind of shade a certain way to make you feel like you're getting the better end of the bargain via some kind of term called value. And that's just the way what I don't know. So we Googled it beforehand, and it becomes even more mysterious, right? So just Google, and it was a Bleacher Report here that comes up at the top. It isn't just your normal, just Google answer. It says, how does Vegas come up with spreads? You take the larger number, higher ranked team, subtract the smaller number, the lower ranked team, add in home field advantage, and you get your spread.
Wow, that's simple, huh? And then just add water.
No.
Chia, right?
Once this is complete, the numbers are compared to create, you guessed it says, more numbers. Only these are the numbers you're accustomed to. First off, to be quite honest, I don't really understand what this is even saying. Like, it's just, I feel like
it's a very public answer.
It makes you like even want more like questions, I know it's not like, hey, you're going to get like a really specific answer, Googling something like that, right? But it's really like, I don't know. It's just kind of funny how they come up with this stuff. Like, it's so predictable. I've explored what I think is their algorithms and theories and whatnot, but for them to be so accurate on all these sports, what center, is at the center of this, and who's doing it, and just, how is that involved? Like I said, like they've had to have been doing this differently when it first started, and then throughout the years. If we're thinking about baseball, now baseball, since we've grown up with baseball, we've grown up with the Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire steroid era, where all there was 3 outcome players, walk, home run, strikeout, and now you're seeing more. Well, actually, that was kind of beforehand. It was all power hitters, right? Who didn't even walk, it was all power hitters. And then, more stats came into the league, and people changed the game, and the way they did things were differently. And actually they came out with a more refined process. And that's kind of like I would love if there was some kind of like documentary going through the processes of how it has evolved, but then like kind of how it is now. Because like I said, like I honestly think that it's pretty automated in my opinion, but they do have people that manipulate the numbers afterwards. And I always think that books are going to operate somewhat to manipulate you as a bettor. And there are some books are more sharper than others and they have better numbers. And well, I think if you understand which books are more shaded one way versus the other, I think is to your advantage.
Absolutely.
Like I use Rivers, and I obviously know which way they're shaded. They're always going to shade toward what's the easiest. It's like, a number might be 8, and they're going to give you 9. Just to make you, we'll give you 9 still. Or you got a late 9, we don't want you on it type. And so you did a little bit of research on this. I mean, what do you think, man?
I mean, this is an outsider's perspective, right? So I don't know anybody in any major syndicates.
Man, but I don't know any bookmakers. Public, man.
Yeah, I'm not an
just
insider.
Just a couple of public guys doing some public stuff, talking about public crap.
Public stuff.
I mean, obviously, if you're trying to win at this, you kind of should be asking this question from time to time. Because I'll be honest, I think too many people, and this is just what I see. I mean, I don't say it because it's. I mean, I could be definitely wrong. I think too many people concentrate on betting team versus team or individual or player prop versus what, the book is actually doing. Like one of my biggest thing again is I grade the books. Like I'll go back and see how accurate they've been, on a certain team. It's more than just looking at the spread, the ATS spread and just like, they've been accurate to, the book has been 5-4 against the spread. So the book's been pretty even, right? Or they've been 10-0 against the spread. The book is not adjusting the number. They keep going over. That's not pretty obvious, but in certain situations, if you look at it more deeply, and you'll see how the book has adjusted throughout. And same groupings. Like if you have 2 teams that are playing this year and they've played last year, like they gave a grade last year, and now is it the same grade this year? How do they change it? Like which way do they go? And that's only if you can use last year's team, right? If you can't use last year's team, it's a new team. You really can't use that data. So when you come up with this new data, how does that, how do you get these numbers?
I think I think we hit the general premise, right? Simulations, they got sophisticated people going through the data.
Super sophisticated, man.
Super sophisticated.
I wonder how much they're paid.
Right?
You think they're paid a lot?
I don't know.
Think about it. They're making lines. You don't think they don't have to bet it? They don't have like a secret person. They're like, hey, I set the line at this. I lied. I set the line at 6. It should have been 10. Hey, go ahead and make a large bet. You don't think that?
I'd imagine there's some shenanigans going on. I imagine they live a pretty nice lifestyle. I know that.
It's probably highly regulated.
They
pay them good too.
Yeah, as a sports bettor, we always try to find an edge against the numbers that the book has come up with. So you might be looking at a variable like an injury or weather or home field advantage. But there's also things like travel spots, unique situations like a rift within the organization. There's also revenge matches.
Well, that's
and it's just important to remember that they've already incorporated all that information into the making of that number. So, like I said, it's always good to find like your edge, but it's also important to realize when they've also acknowledged the edge, because that's what we're looking for. So, for instance, I'm just throwing a completely hypothetical situation out there. It hasn't happened, right? Next World Series, right? It's getting really cold. We're gonna have a cold World Series out there, right? Now, beforehand, let's just say weather was nice, fine and dandy. Game 1, 50 degrees, everything's great. But you and I both know in a Midwest city, right, things could change and go down 20 degrees in a heartbeat. So the question we have to ask ourselves as a bettor, how much is that temperature shift worth? Is 10 degrees worth a point on the spread? Is Is it 5 degrees? Is it 20 degrees? Those are like the fine details that, like, as a handicapper, you have to create your own system. I think that's the most important thing in all of this is make your own system. Don't get caught up into what the book is doing because they're going to do what they do. Sometimes it may not even make any sense to us because at the end of the day, they're the ones pulling the strings. They have their positions and they know which way they want the outcome to go. And you don't want to fall into their trap. You don't want to get into the habit of constantly basing all of your decisions off of the book because then it's like they got you. They could then psychologically analyze you, and they do this because what do they do when you walk into a casino? A player's card, right? They track everything, from your drinking habits to your spending habits to the types of games you like. Why wouldn't they do that with sports betting? So the book is constantly analyzing.
Well, do you think they're giving different numbers to different people is what you're saying?
Now that's something I haven't thought about. That's an interesting take.
That has to be what you're saying. No, I'm serious.
It's not what I'm saying, but
but how does tracking you individually change the number?
Latency. Now we do know this.
So they are changing the numbers. What you're saying?
It's not that they're changing the number. It's just that if you're a sharp bettor, I know people who have showed me that they've been slowed down. Like I'm on the same book as they're on. And like
gotcha.
It's the same number. It's the same number. So like for instance, let's just say it's like a -4 and I'm getting it at like, -159 or some bullshit number. And now he's trying to make the same bet at the same time, but because of the events that transpired, he's getting it at like -250. Like he's not getting the same odds as I am, but we're trying to place the bet at exactly the same time. So maybe it's his phone provider, man. I don't know. Maybe it's a third world phone, iPhone versus Android. I don't know, man. But that's honestly, an interesting conversation.
I didn't think that this was happening to you.
No, it's not happening to me, by the way. I'm just saying, like, you brought it up. You were saying this is what I was saying. I actually wasn't going that direction at all.
It's kind of what I thought you were saying.
No, it's not at all.
You were saying they were tracking you and they knew you, and I was like, whoa, they know you. So what does this mean?
It's everyone, right?
So how does that change the number?
They know because it's important to understand the psychological profile of your average sports bettor versus a sharp bettor. If you think that a book is not trying to distinguish a sharp betting action versus public betting action, you're fooling yourself, pal.
So they're grouping you up. They're like, all the people who lose, this is what they do, and all the people who win, this is what they do. Like all the people who win, like they spend their time doing this on their phone. Like
no, there's betting patterns that they look for. So I mean, it's just well-known stuff, public information. It's not conspiracy stuff. It's about managing losses. They're not going to let you play them. They're not going to let you use your infinite knowledge and wisdom to gain an edge on them.
They're going to push all the parlays on you, knowing that like
they will do
you're going to bet them, and then when your player gets injured, it was a single bets only. We can't do
anything about it.
It is what it is.
Yeah, he got chlamydia the second hole. I can't help it. He can't continue.
Well, we have a Discord and we post picks, man. I'll be honest, this whole week I haven't been on it again. It's been a really rough, month for me, just with my schedule, doing getting this show together, and obviously there's other stuff. This week, I got a new car, and
congrats on the Tesla. Dude.
Yeah, Tesla's awesome. So I got to prepare for one of my bets. And I'll talk about my two bets first. I'll go pretty quick. I had Tampa Bay plus 3.5 Sunday, right? And this is, there's nothing more to say. I didn't have a bet the entire day. I didn't put this wasn't like a crazy amount or anything like that. But, I was drinking, right? I was cleaning up. I was drinking, and I had the game on. I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to put a little something on Tampa Bay because I thought the number looked really funky, and I had no previous thought process in the game. And you know what? I shouldn't have played it, and I shouldn't have put it in the Discord because look, we're gonna review it. I'm gonna talk about it. If I made the play in the Discord, and I did, and that's just something that I think, I don't play for like a whole week because I'm pretty disciplined. It's like, oh, okay, I know I'm not gonna win. I'm not gonna make a bet. I'm not gonna play. Like, it's just stupid. I win that way sometimes by not, if you're not in the right frame of mind, don't bet. And yeah, I wasn't in the best frame of mind for that one. Yeah, and then the last one was actually like the week ago. It was L.A. with Anthony Davis. You had told me.
Did you fade me?
No. Actually, like I said, too bad. We did talk about this in episode 4 that will never be heard, but
the infamous Lost City of Atlantis.
Basically, I thought the number was great for LA. I thought the spot was there. They were in Cleveland. It was LeBron James returning back home, and yeah, they lost. And Anthony, okay, so I guess the best thing I can come out of this one was, after I lost, I was like, man, it really sucked. Like, what the hell? Like I had a process. Like, how can that process lose? And when I examined afterwards, I looked at the game, and that's when I had really, really realized that Anthony Davis got sick. With 1 point.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
You had that player prop bet. It was really good, and you can talk about that if you want. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that what I had made the bet on was quickly diminished when Anthony Davis went out, and that game was fairly close going into late, and then they pulled away. And I think if Anthony Davis is in that game, you have a completely different outcome. And, this isn't me giving excuses. It's me saying that I'm going to stick with the process that led me to that pick. I'm not going to deviate from what I did to get there. It's really just something that you got to move on from. It was, again, that's something that's out of your control. In my opinion, these form of games where you have players that go out that drastically change the prediction of the game happens like less than 5%. So it was a less than 5% game. I think if you cashed in Cleveland, it was the wrong side. You just happened to be on the lucky side that night. Hey, what it is. So, you did okay this week, right? What do you got?
We did really well overall. In the Discord, we also did well. We had a winning week in the Discord. We had that particular player prop that you're talking about.
Anthony Davis. That was a good one.
Let me pull the glasses up, the bifocals. It was on December 6th, right?
Yeah.
So Lakers and Cavs.
So this is going back to December 6th, Monday, I believe. Or Tuesday.
Yep.
No, it was Tuesday.
Yep, yeah. Correct. And then we had, let's see.
We'll review in 1 week from before.
Anthony Davis
and we'll review next week, a whole week back. So, no, keep going.
We had Anthony Davis under 27.5 points, and we took it at minus 124 odds pregame, not in game.
No, what day was that?
Let's see, that was 12-6, but then we took more bets in game because that's just what we do sometimes, and it ended up cashing. Now, I want to give you an idea into my thought process of why I even did it, because I know your thought process led you one way and my thought process led me the other way. And here's how they're intertwined. So you had one angle where LeBron James was coming back to Cleveland. It was a game.
Well, that was a subliminal. That was like a surface. I know that's a surface level angle.
I understand.
There was deeper roots, but that had nothing to do with Anthony. The whole Anthony Day, LeBron James returning to Cleveland thing came up afterwards. It came up after. It was like
it's not important.
It wasn't something that went to the decision, but afterwards it's like, oh, this makes even more sense.
But I'm trying to get
to me, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned something, Anthony Davis getting hurt, and you just mentioned like, hey, if he doesn't get hurt, well, that's the way I was thinking. He was the catalyst to their recent success.
Yeah, you said that.
He had an 8 to 9 game stretch where he was just playing bonkers, out of your mind basketball. And I always and again, it's always a guessing game.
You were just randomly fading them. which happened to be really good.
To me, it's not random. Actually, I know it's not random. It's always trying to see. There's always going to be stretches where a player plays either really good or really bad. Very rarely do you see a guy with a good game and then a bad game, and then a good game and then a bad game.
No, you actually told me this. We were at the bar, and you told me about how you were going to start fading Anthony Davis.
And then before, remember the day before.
Yeah. And so
we were at the book before, and we were having this conversation.
So he actually, the next game, he actually gets sick. Has he done anything since then? I don't know.
I haven't even followed it. So what I like to do
is once you win, and then you just
I'm going to disconnect from the situation because I need to find another situation.
Yeah,
I don't.
That's good.
There's sometimes where like you might want to ride the wave. Like say you find a trend and it's like hit so many different times before in the past, and you feel you're at the beginning. Where like you feel this guy's going to go on like a 5-6 game tear and he's on game 1 or 2. So you feel like you might have a few games of opportunity, so you just might blindly play that. I've done things like that in the past, but for me, long-term success means like limiting losses. And it's sometimes very tempting to continue betting because of obviously the outcome, the payouts. But to me, I don't view like me not bet like a situation like that where I feel like I read it correctly and it comes to fruition. I'll tag it a few times, I leave it alone, and then I disconnect and reset and find another pick, because it's very easy to go really hard and you might feel so strongly in your own thought process that you go 5, 6, 7 times what you would normally do, and now you lose. Or let's say you had an over, he got sick and things didn't go the way you thought, and now you're down considerably. So my whole philosophy is you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. You know, it's about the long-term growth. Where are you at for the week, for the month, for the year? More so the moment. So the general public might have like a fascination with the ticket. So I know a lot of people like to post, and I know you've seen this too, on their Instagrams or their Facebook. They win a big prize. They might bet 1,000 times in a year, and they win one time $5,000. Okay, well, what about those other times where you lost? You know, it's almost like you're putting out. People use sports betting as almost like.
Well, that's why we're transparent in the Discord.
It's very important to be transparent.
How many bets did you have this week?
Total in the Discord or total?
No, in the Discord. Because if you're not going to put it in Discord, there's no evidence other than what you did. Like, we need.
There's always evidence.
No, but the transparent evidence. You know. Like, why would you talk about? If you want to talk about it, then you put it in the Discord. If you want to talk, if you don't want to talk about
this week started.
But then you don't put it in the Discord.
What's today, Chief? What are we on? The 13th.
Yeah.
Okay, so then this week, I guess after that, it looks like I went quiet. I really didn't. After on 12-9, I did play Croatia to go through.
Did they? Did you win?
Against Brazil. That was a great win too. Croatia, again, another hard-nosed team, plays good defense, likes to slow the tempo. Brazil, very fast-paced, high-scoring team, but they're also very arrogant, and they like to dance around a lot. And
have you been winning a lot on the World Cup?
Actually, yes, very profitable on the World Cup.
Yeah.
So far, very profitable on the World Cup. I'm probably, as it winds down, I'm probably going to look more towards NBA. Because I don't like to bet on things that are winding down. For instance, the NFL.
Right now, NBA is prime time.
Yes. And then NFL, to me, it's like I want to watch it more than I want to bet on it.
For me, I feel it's really unfortunate that I've been so busy and like I have just my focus hasn't been there because really I'm missing some really good opportunities in NBA. I really feel so, you know.
Yep.
We had the audio issue last time, right? Some of the time I would have spent on NBA, spent on the audio. You know, it just, I mean, not to make excuses, but, you know, that was a few hours.
Yeah, no, it takes time to put this together.
If I'm serious about making a bet, I mean, maybe you might need a couple hours worth of looking into a situation before you feel comfortable about it. So, didn't do it. Anyways, did you have any, was that it? I mean, did you have any losers or?
Yeah, so we had, let's see, so we won.
We don't just talk about the winners.
Croatia, man. We won on Anthony Davis, but we also lost. Let's see, we have to go. We lost on a parlay. So the parlay was a combination of sorts. So we had Japan and Croatia under 2.5 goals, which actually won. So that leg of the parlay won. And then the
But what kind
second
of
half
when
of
you're
the
doing this? I mean, what makes you bet these? I mean, you're just randomly like talking like.
no, we're
Do you
well,
have any? I mean, can you go back and think about like when you were making these? Like, what was going on in your head, man? Like,
absolutely, absolutely.
like
I
what
can
kind of strategy? Like, what kind of were you under stress? Were you not under stress? Like,
No, and again, these aren't.
were you drunk? I mean, I was pretty drunk when I made Tampa Bay.
No, actually. So if you actually follow the Discord, this would be in our live betting section. You can actually almost see my thought process. So the first leg of that parlay, South Korea, +1 first half on the Asian handicap. So for those who are not familiar with Asian handicap, it's just think of it as a spread. You know, we don't want to overcomplicate things. I had South Korea +1 first half, and then I also had Japan Croatia under 2.5 goals. So the idea of the first leg, and again I had individuals on these as well, was I was trying to time the dissension of Brazil. So going into this, like if you rewind 2 weeks ago, I had already had in my mind that Brazil was going to get knocked out. The question was by whom? It was already implanted in my mind. All my research, all my analysis, dotted my T's. I mean, crossed my T's and dotted my I's. But that's where I was going with it. It had nothing to do really with North Korea's form as much as it was a fade of Brazil, and it lost. But again, I followed my thought process, and that same week, I faded Brazil again and won. Now, if you look at the odds that I lost on a -250 ticket, something that should have been a for sure winner. And then the winner on fading Brazil was a +180.
Yeah,
right?
did you put that
So
in
it's
the Discord?
Yes.
That's an after the fact.
Oh yeah,
play.
that was.
That's an illegal. We don't talk about that.
But
you're just talking about your winners. Can't do that. Selective.
Well, no,
You got to pull some losers then if you're gonna pull some
that
winners.
was the only loser we had. That was the only for the week. Like
Yeah, you didn't play. How many games?
I didn't play a
like,
lot.
What, like 2 or 3 games?
So that was the only loser I had. Was I incorrectly chose Brazil the first go round. I'm sorry, I incorrectly chose South Korea over Brazil in the first half, the first go round. But then I stuck with my thought process, like you were mentioning
Yeah, you didn't put it
earlier.
in Discord though. You just did it separately, which is good if you know.
I did put it in the Discord.
Not the live bet. You after you won, you put it out there.
The second ticket,
Yeah.
So I posted the loser,
Yeah, you
and
posted
didn't post the winner.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I still bet. There's still real money both sides.
But it doesn't count in the Discord. It counts in your wallet.
The most important thing, which
Well, I'm
of
just
course,
saying this show's based on the Discord, so we're not going to talk about what you put on your wallet, right? We'll move on, okay? Because we don't got much games. SPF finally goes to jail.
Oh boy.
And we wanted this.
Oh yeah, no, I saw the interview, and
so we talked about it last week, and we thought he was going to testify in front of I believe Congress it was, and on the 13th, and he didn't make it that far. He made it to the 12th. Like
didn't make it to the hearing, huh?
So at first I was kind of upset. I'm like, wait, why would they not let him testify and then arrest him, right? Because initially I thought it was kind of like a ruse. They were like, hey, why don't you come testify? And then when he comes over here, they're like, gotcha, we're going to lock you up, you know? Or testify and then, oh, gotcha, we're going to lock you up. And it didn't happen that way. He got arrested
in the Bahamas.
He got arrested in the Bahamas, and he got denied bail. It's pretty wild. This whole saga is. I'm kind of happy it's going to come to an end, because I think that's him going to jail was in essence kind of like the end, because there's a lot of funds that are going to be distributed amongst people who lost their funds, but it's like they're not really going to get everything back. It's only going to be I don't know, maybe a fraction, I'm guessing. There's a lot of mismanaged money there. You can't just make money come back out of thin air that's already spent. And so, other than just figuring out the creditors, and the more people going to jail, that's going to be interesting too. But they got the big fish. I'm kind of happy about it. So if you're paying attention to crypto, people think that Ethereum is a security, so maybe get out of Ethereum. I don't know. I wouldn't tell anybody to do that. That's I kind of think that it might be a security. I don't know. Maybe. I think Bitcoin is definitely something that you just kind of want to keep plugging away at. It's like always something that like I've kind of thought of, and kind of become more of a Bitcoin maximalist. Here lately, actually in the past, I'd say year for sure. I've always looked at it because I was never really big on a DeFi train, and so him going to jail is good, and I think it's actually puts him closer to me. Like I said, I having thing tied up in the FTX, but it was a big side. Here listening to all his Twitter spaces and just reading all the crap he was saying, it was all the same stuff, but it was definitely attention grabbing. And then I guess the hearing I listened to today, that was 4 hours. And the funny thing about the hearing is, have you ever listened to a hearing like that,
a congressional hearing?
A congressional hearing where they're all testifying and.
Yeah, but the last one I listened to kind of like lost my interest. It was the whole saga with Russia and Trump
I remember
and collusion. I'm just like, this is too much.
I was in Florida when that was happening.
Oh, you were enjoying life. That was a good time to be in Florida, buddy.
You didn't even know it was happening.
A great time to miss a congressional hearing. But yeah,
it can get pretty boring. The one thing I would say on this while listening to it is, you got a lot of people who are talking who really don't understand like how it all works. So like half their questions are like not even relevant. It's kind of like entertaining in that aspect. You're just kind of like, man, is this person really not that caught up in the whole crypto thing yet? It's like, I can understand if it was like 2017, when people were really just getting introduced to it, or even 2020, but we're 2022 and you've got one of the largest collapses. It's kind of like, you should start doing your homework before you come to this and start asking dumb questions. You could really tell who has bags though, because there was some members who were specifically asking about like their bag. So when do you think we're all gonna get our money back? And the guy who's like put in charge of like trying to look into it, he's just kind of like, well, we don't know. And the guy's like, so you're saying is never? And he's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just like, that guy has a bag. He's pissed off right now. He's like yelling at the guy who's like just in charge but didn't cause any of the issues. I want my bag. It's kind of wild.
Or when Brian Oates Dewey money. Where's my money? Right? Where's my money?
So yeah. I mean, you didn't catch any of that today, right? I'm guessing. Right?
I did not watch the.
Did you even know it was happening?
I did know the congressional hearing was happening, but I was sleeping. My work schedule, I sleep through a lot of daytime events. Now, I did actually watch the interview with George Papadopoulos on ABC. I won't get too much into it, but I just know that that Sam just came off very disingenuous and very not non-remorseful. I almost smug. Like, it was just like he was taunting everyone who lost their money, and every time he said he felt bad, you never believed it. Like, no one would believe for a second that he felt bad about the situation, even though he kept saying that he felt bad about the situation. And it's just like, how could you really feel bad when you're walking away with $700 million?
He's not walking away.
Well, you're right. Money. He's not walking away with anything right now.
He don't have anything. And he might have something in a cold wallet stored to the side, but.
And I'm just really interested in how this whole extradition is going to happen, because in the Bahamas, they have like an interesting agreement with the United States. Now, they do have extradition rights, and they usually cooperate, but if the defendant appeals, it could just delay it a little bit, and who knows what could happen during that. You could be released on bail during that time. He could flee to another country.
Yeah, no, they didn't give him bail. He tried. Yeah, he stays in. Yeah, he stays there.
Okay.
They're not giving him bail.
Cool. So maybe he stays in jail during his appeal.
I guess they have the extradition in February.
Okay.
Or from what I saw, I could be wrong. You know what was crazy, and we'll kind of end real fast off of this, is the biggest takeaway that I saw was man, they were really interested in how the Bahamian authorities took custody of some of the assets. I'm not sure if it was just the Bahamian authorities, but how he allowed people in the Bahamas to start taking out their money before everyone else. So basically, the day before the bankruptcy became announced, he told everyone in the Bahamas, hey, look, tomorrow we're going to be going into bankruptcy, take out all your money. And then all the people in the U.S. and around the world, everyone else found out the 11th, the Bahamas already had 24 hours notice to get their money out.
No, is this government officials or is this like his people in the Bahamas, like his workers? And
he told like the entire Bahamas.
And they still sold him out, and they put him in jail.
They
damn.
So I mean,
it's cold-blooded.
From the sounds of it, they kind of coerced him. From the sounds of it,
okay.
You know, from just initial, they kind of coerced him, saying, you know, that he needed to allow the people in the Bahamas, you know, access to their assets, and he kind of mentioned to this in one space, I believe, where he mentioned that it was because he was in the Bahamas that he did that. Like, well, you know, if you're there, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Like, maybe, I don't know, they strong arm him or something. I don't know, but that's just kind of weird. And honestly, the big not a big part, but like kind of a big part was how the assets after and before the bankruptcy, you know, were being distributed between the Bahamian authorities and the Bahamian people, and just exactly who Sam Bankman-Fried was talking to. And so I think, you know, we might find out more information on what happens with the Bahamas. You know, they took all the money before. I think it was somewhere around like $300 million. So they had access 24 hours, and in that 24 hours, there was like $300 million deducted from the FTX accounts, specifically to the people in Bahamas. Now, I'm not saying, I don't know if it's the whole island or whatever, but they were just saying that I guess it was the customers in the Bahamas. So if you were a customer in the Bahamas, you were given notice 24 hours beforehand.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So it's like stuff like that. It's kind of like, man, it's kind of a boring hearing, but man, it's pretty interesting to hear, like, you know, what they have, like the insight, you know, and you know, they're not going to tell you everything, because obviously people are probably flipping, you know. They're probably like, you know, hey, I'll tell you whatever you want me to tell you, just don't send me to jail, because you know all those people don't want to go to jail, right? They're not the type of people that can make it. And you know, it's kind of an interesting story, man. So maybe we'll have more news on it next week. I mean, that's just what I know, right? This is the Betting Public Podcast.